Outlaws.
Hello, Sweat Hogs. It's 1993. We're working our way through these Halloween Havocs. How are you, Adam? You alright?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. Not quite as wonderful as Paul Orndorff, but I'm getting there. If any of our listeners are big fans of wrestling matches where they start out okay, they work into the middle okay, and then they collapse at the end, then boy, have we got a pay-per-view for them. Because Halloween Havoc 1993 is better than Halloween Havoc 1992 by some margin, but they just don't quite make the landing in some of these matches. But we'll talk through it. And 1993 brought us a better film than, what was our film last time again? Brain Dead?
Brain Dead.
Which we took the proverbial dump on last time.
Yeah,
we got a good one this time. Well, I think we got a good one. Let's keen to hear how you felt.
Yep.
Shall we just jump in?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So our film this week for 1993, or the supposed highest rated horror film from 1993, we had the choice, I think, between Dracula? No, was that last year? That was that last year, yeah.
I can't remember. I remember us having a choice.
It's like Hocus Pocus or something like that, wasn't it?
It might have been. Yeah, we did, whatever it was, we definitely both seen it. So we thought, we'll take a wee gamble, which, maybe didn't pay off the last time, but,
Listen, you spin the wheel, you make a deal. Sometimes it's a Texas death match, sometimes it's a coal miner's glove match.
Yeah, nicely put. Yeah.
We had John Carpenter's Body Bags, which was a film that was made for direct TV. At the time, I think John Carpenter was maybe coming off a bit of a failure. I don't know what that film was, but this was why he was back to direct for TV. I've got the synopsis here. Will I run through it?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, John Carpenter's Body Bags is a 1993 horror anthology film. The film consists of 3 stories, each with their own unique horror theme. Carpenter himself appears as a host, a creepy coroner who introduces each story. The first story is titled The Gas Station. The second story titled Hair, and the third story titled Eye. John Carpenter's Body Bags is a fun and gruesome horror film that delivers plenty of scares and dark humour. How much did you enjoy Body Bags?
I really enjoyed it, and I don't know if it was how terrible the previous attempt film was, which neither of us made it through. I don't know if I was just in the exact type of mood to be watching something like this, but this was so much fun, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be. It was really entertaining. Didn't take itself too seriously, but the stories were interesting enough to keep you in. I really, really enjoyed this.
Me too. I think we both were in the right frame of mind for it. It was just it sort of bridged the gap between a lot of fun and the horror elements that were enjoyable. I'll talk about the first one. I'll give you the pleasure of talking about the second one, then we could talk about the third one together. So the first one was called The Gas Station, and this was probably the one that was sort of more straightforward horror. Sort of follow a young girl who's working at a gas station sort of way out in the middle of nowhere. She's working the night shift, I think, for the first time maybe. And we hear over the radio that there's a serial killer or something serial killer on the loose. Lots of jump scares, lots of different characters coming in and out the gas station, which is a really good opportunity for different. We get different cameos here. We get a Wes Craven cameo as this like ridiculously creepy older man that's trying to get this young girl's number. We get the guy from A Werewolf in London. Is that?
Yes. American Werewolf in London.
American Werewolf in London.
Yep.
We get him in it as well. This was just nice and straightforward. A good introduction to this anthology. I loved it. I thought it was cool. And a nice wee twist at the end with the person who's revealed to actually be the killer and all that as well. A nice wee. They're all sort of split into half hours. So we've got an hour and a half film with these half hour little mini films. Aye, I loved it. I thought it was class. Great wee start.
Yeah, and it's one of your sort of classic sort of horror stories where somebody is on their own, isolated at night, and things start happening. And it's simple, it's straightforward, but entertaining. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Okay. Second one was called Hair. Take it away.
Okay. So here stars Stacey Keach, who is pretty he's lacking confidence and he's lacking hair. His hair's starting to go, and you see him going through sort of various attempts to conceal his disappearing hair, being mocked by his partner for these attempts, like basically getting his head painted and things like that.
Very unsympathetic to this cause.
She was, but I think the point of that was supposed to be she doesn't care. It was only him that was caring about this hair situation. So you see a couple of adverts about this miracle hair growth thing, and he eventually decided. There's a brilliant moment quite early on where I think it's when he's just come out of either the hairdressers or when he's been away buying his products for painting his head. He sees a woman with very long hair. And then a man with very long hair, and then a dog, and he's got real hair envy for the dog. Like mentioned earlier, it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's these little moments in it, but he makes his appointment with I think they're called the Roswell Hair Growth Company or something like that.
There's your clue, Stacey.
Yeah. So yeah, he ends up getting his hair treatment, and it all seems to have worked perfectly early on. He gets the way Stacey Keach looks when he picks this option, which I think is it the stallion for his hairstyle, which is this incredibly long straight hair. He looks so weird with the hair, like but he's so happy that he's got this. It's incredible. So yeah, it seems like it's worked, but some early signs that it seems to be keeping to grow, and he needs to go and get it styled and cut, and then you start seeing some strange things going on with his hair. Should I avoid giving any spoilers? It's a good story, but it turns a bit strange for old Stacey Keach there.
Yeah, it does. It's so good. It's so well acted by Stacey Keach.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do I know Stacey Keach from? Prison Break, probably the most.
Yeah.
And you just didn't expect this sort of performance. It's so much fun. It's amazing.
Yeah.
There's the bit when he's in the hairdressers, and this is his girlfriend suggested that he go see her hairdresser, and he's going to supposedly work miracles with the sort of thinning hair that he's got. He refers to him as he was so rude. He refers to him as Chrome Dome City.
He does.
What an asshole.
Yeah. And this is a hairdresser who seems to be just indicating that he needs to just accept what's happening. I would have thought the hairdresser would be the person that would try and solve all your problems. But to be fair, when he does come out of the hairdresser, he does look like he's got a bit more hair than when he went in. He's done something with the styling. Yeah. So maybe I assume that was what the girlfriend always had in mind, that he was going to get done, but then he goes and basically paints his head black, which doesn't go very well either.
There's also a bit where he's in the car, and I can't remember if it's after he's had the hair transplant or if it's after he's been to the hairdressers, but there's this song about letting your freak flag fly, And is this after he's had the hair transplant?
I think so, yeah.
It's just amazing. Amazing. Definitely my favourite of the three, this one. It goes a little bit odd towards the end, but the oddness, I embraced the oddness. I liked it.
Good fun. Yep.
The third of the three starred Mark Hamill as some sort of major. Is it maybe like not a major league baseball player, but
minor leagues baseball? Yeah.
And they're looking at him to be potentially moving up to the major leagues. How does he has a car accident, does he?
He has he's dicking about for ages trying to change a cassette or something like that while he's driving along, and then he has his car crash, and when this I think couple that are passing run to find him, he's got basically a shard right in his eye, a shard of glass. Doesn't look good.
He loses his eye. He's obviously a baseball player. He needs two eyes. He ends up getting some miraculous transplant, but unfortunately the transplant comes with its own problems. And he starts to see visions, and I'm getting the impression that he's had the eye of a killer or something like that. This one was probably my least favourite of the three. I enjoyed aspects of it, but I just didn't. It wasn't quite as fun. It was a bit. It was quite angry.
It goes like there's a scene in the bedroom where it goes a wee bit far. I felt like
I agree. I didn't need to see Mark Hamill's bare arse, nor that level of aggression from him.
No.
That's Luke Skywalker.
I think this story, has been one way or another told many times, and I'm sure it's been told better than this. I remember a Simpsons episode, but I think it almost combines two of these, where it's like a hair transplant for Homer, but he gets the hair of Snake, who was the local criminal, and he starts like getting a bit murdery. I reckon the Simpsons creators had just watched this and took two of the stories and combined them.
Brilliant. And they probably did it really well. That's
and
class.
Actually, I think that the point where Snake gets killed is in the Quickie Mart, so that's basically like the gas station. Yeah, I think that they've stolen it all.
Wow. I need to go and watch this episode of The Simpsons now. This is now a Simpsons podcast. In next to all those three little films, we get John Carpenter as this, what did I refer to him as? The crypt keeper sort of character. Who's kind of introducing the various stories, and he's doing these wee skits and stuff like that. He's what we think he is somebody who works in a morgue. Yeah. Eventually turns out that he's actually a dead body, another one of the body bags. Yeah. It's all cool. It's all brilliant.
Good. Great fun. Really entertaining.
I've got some interesting trivia that you might like.
Go for it.
Who else did we miss? Sam Raimi's in this. In a cameo, it refers to him as Dead Bill. So I guess he's maybe one of the body bags that he opens and puts back. Yeah. We've got Tom Arnold. You spoke about him. Toby Hooper, who was he's the director of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, wasn't he? Yeah. The film was originally intended to be a TV series.
Oh, okay.
But was never picked up. It was going to be called It was going to be called Masters of Horror, but the series was never picked up.
Interesting. She got do you remember Tales from the Crypt? Did you ever see Tales from the Crypt? Yeah. Which is like an anthology series, and there's the link of the Crypt Keeper and all that. And it right from the start, it was kind of reminding me of things like that. And then we'd been talking about anthology things, and I'd mentioned Creepshow, which was there was an original Creepshow film, which was I can't remember how many short stories. It was maybe 3. Making up the film, but you were telling me that there's now a series, a Creepshow series.
Yep. Yeah, there's 3 seasons of it, which some are quite hit and miss, but some of them are good.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out.
And did you know that the phrase body bags refers to failed pilots in the TV industry?
I did not.
I wonder if that's why they called it body bags.
Yeah, maybe. I imagine they had a wee nod and a laugh about it at least. Yeah.
So there you go.
Nice.
It was definitely fun. If you're a horror fan, if you like sort of anthology type stuff, definitely recommend. Sort of Twilight. It's quite Twilight Zone-y.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
If you like that sort of thing, definitely recommend John Carpenter's Body Bags. And John Carpenter, if you're listening, make more of these, please. Keep making your awesome albums that are on Spotify of sort of creepy music, but also make more of these.
Agreed.
Okay, so that was Body Bags. Next year, in 1994, which we've discussed, we are going to watch The Crow.
Yes.
The cult classic The Crow, starring Brandon Lee. So that should be interesting. Have you seen The Crow?
I've seen it. I've not seen it for a good few years. I really liked it when I saw it in the past. I remember thinking the soundtrack was awesome as well.
Nice.
So yeah, looking forward to watching it again. What about you?
I think I've seen it when I was younger, but I don't think I've seen it as an adult. So it'll be interesting to see. It's very romanticised, that film, isn't it? Obviously because of the legend of Brandon Lee and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see as an adult.
Nice.
So we shall do that next time.
Cool.
And with that out the way, with the fun out the way, let's get into the wrestling. Let's get into the WCW Halloween Havoc 1993. We're 4 Havocs in, and I've got in my notes here that we are peaking. Our Halloween Havocs are peaking solely because of the intro video. Talk me through this amazing Tony Schiavone starring intro.
Yeah. So you've got like a few kids who are out trick or treating, and one of them is talking about needing to get home because Halloween Havoc's about to start. But there's this one boy that wants to go to this proper scary house, so they go up, most of them reluctantly, and ring the bell, and Tony Schiavone answers the door. Now, I don't know why, but I really questioned to myself a few times whether it was really Tony Schiavone. And then I kept going back to, well, why would it not be? Why would they, use somebody else to be Tony Schiavone? But anyway, the kids were sort of, surprised seeing Tony Schiavone. He's going to be working this pay-per-view, but he's keen for the kids to come in. Talks about them getting a bite of his wife's cookies or something like that. Right. So he gets them into the house, and then he's there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Like he'll suddenly appear at the top of stairs from kind of out of nowhere, and I think he says at any point they question anything, it's like, it's Halloween, anything can happen at Halloween. And they reference the spin the wheel, make the deal, Vader v Cactus Jack stipulation as anything can happen. Schiavone says if the kids want to be really scared, they should get a load of this. And he pulls his face off and reveals this like monster face. I've probably skipped a few moments in there, but it was quite something. Intro video.
He appeared to be either whatever they had as Bebop or Rocksteady from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film, the second one, Return of the Ooze. Do you remember the sort of creepy versions of Bebop and Rocksteady they had? He was one of them.
I don't until you've said it, but okay, that makes sense.
There was one of the little pricks buries the Cactus Jack Vader match for some reason. That's some good producing for WCW. And I like that they said, Mr. Schiavone, what's that smell? And he said, it's my wife. And like the creepiest smile you've ever seen. Well played to Tony Schiavone for that. It's brilliant.
He threw himself into it.
Absolutely.
I think we go, we're in New Orleans here, and we basically go to the show from there.
Yes.
What is Bischoff dressed as?
It's a Confederate soldier uniform.
Okay.
Which has not aged very well at all.
Not really. We've got Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura as the commentary team. Tony Schiavone is dressed as Jesse Ventura,
which is brilliant.
It's really funny.
It's amazing. And what is Jesse Ventura dressed as, Adam?
Is he like a doctor?
He's a doc. I think he's a doctor. He's got a big claw, and he says to Tony that he's Bourbon Street's #1 gynecologist. There's an elderly woman in the front row, and she starts going, "Yeah." And Jesse's class. We had issues with JR the last time because we felt that JR and Ventura they're not on the same wavelength as far as I had issues with Schiavone this time. I feel like you need somebody to fit with Ventura more than anything. But I was laughing. Ventura says that he was looking forward to Goosies and Goblins at this pay-per-view, and I thought, fuck's sake, is that going to be one of these mysterious creature? Is that the new tag team in WCW, the Goosies and Goblins? And unfortunately it wasn't, because unfortunately our first match, we're straight into it.
Yeah.
They seem to kick. They seem to be getting a rhythm now. We're kicking off the match with a random 6-man tag match. So we've got the Harlem Heat and the Equalizer.
Oh yeah,
who was giving me Barry Windham at Survivor Series 90. What was that? 96 vibes.
Yeah.
They're taking on the Shockmaster, Ice Train, and Charlie Norris, which is just a gimmick full of people.
I mean, have we spoken here before about the Shockmaster?
Nah. So let's do it. So this version of the Shock. So I read this to see who was coming on. I thought the Shockmaster, yes, and then it was basically like Tugboat in construction clothes, and I was like, that's not the Shockmaster. The Shockmaster's like glittery stormtrooper helmet and all that.
Yeah,
but yeah. So you and I were texting back and forward. I went back and watched the Shockmaster's debut. They very quickly ditched the glittery stormtrooper helmet after he fell through that wall. And Davey Boy was saying, he's fell on his ass. He's fell on his fucking ass.
When, like, you sent me the clip, because I had seen it before and I'd heard about it, and always thought, what a shame for the guy, because it's live, and he has supposed to have this big intro, and he does fall over, and he basically just looks like an absolute idiot, and he's supposed to be this big intimidating presence, and that's just gone. It's just immediately gone. But I was really impressed by the way Sid kept going in the clip that you said, because he stays like as if he is confronting some intimidating presence, and I thought, oh, well played, Sid. You've done your best here.
He did. It's so funny. Sting's like, he's gonna shock the world, and then he falls through the wall. So they turn the Shockmaster from this intimidating. I mean, what is a Shockmaster? But they turn him from this intimidating, glittery-headed stormtrooper into this sort of oaf that keeps falling over things and stuff. Do you think they sold Big Tugboat on this? Like, this is it. This is the big one. You're going to be main eventing. And then suddenly he's curtain jerking against the Harlem Heat, who seem to be named Kane and Cole.
Yeah, I don't remember them having names other than like what became their ring names. But obviously they did. I assume this is very early days of the Harlem Heat. Mm-hmm. They've got some heat here. The crowd aren't into them.
Nah.
Nah. Were you familiar with Ice Train at all?
Well, I was familiar of him when he'd moved to the future and his name was Big E. But apart from that, no, not really.
And how about Charlie Norris? Charlie Norris?
Yeah, this guy's called Chuck Norris.
Yeah. And I feel
but he's also a Native American.
They were, yeah. And I feel like they were wanting to make a big deal of him as well.
WCW have got a knack for putting people in the first match on their cards that certainly in their Halloween Havoc cards, that one, you've never heard it, and two, absolutely suck.
Yeah. I'm going to have to admit, I didn't take a whole load of notes about this. But what I did notice, there's like the Shockmaster's got a bear hug, and like, I try to make sense of my notes here because I remember thinking this was really weird. He kind of does a slam thing where he falls. I think it's on Booker T. Now, Booker's brother and the Equalizer are both in the ring, but neither of them go to try and break the pinfall on Booker. They both actually run away from the pinfall to go after the other opponents. And it just looked really bad, because I think sometimes you'll get away with that if it's like, they can't see it or whatever, but it's right in front of them. Like, and there's no way they could have possibly missed it and thought, but it does look like they've just decided, I just want to fight. I don't care if we lose this match. And if that story had been there, then maybe that's okay. But the finish just looked stupid. The whole thing.
Oh dear. I thought that the sort of bear hug driver that the Shockmaster did was almost like a tombstone, but he was holding him up the right way.
Yeah.
It was it was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that about Stevie Ray and what's that guy called? The Equalizer.
The Equalizer.
Yeah, I didn't
Not
notice
sure
that
much
one.
became of him.
My favourite part of the match was that when Big Shockmaster's tearing off the ropes, Schiavone refers to him as an agile man, and Jesse Ventura is not accepting that at all. But he does say he's a danger to children, which I was not sure about at all. That's a different gimmick.
A whole different, yeah. Do you think, given, so this is 93.
Yeah.
So we're very deep in gimmicks on WWF side, I think, at this point. Do you think that I can imagine like Vince being like, "Oh, god damn it, pal," when he saw that what the Shockmaster became, just basically an electrician.
Yeah,
100%. And it's like, we're not going to be able to use that.
What was Ice Train?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't.
He looked like the sort of prototypical amateur wrestler that they put in the ring, but then called him Ice. The crowd seemed to be doing some sort of whoop. There it is for the Ice Train. Maybe that was his thing.
And I started to find that a bit annoying.
Well, they kept doing it throughout the whole pay-per-view.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough during the match that he's in, but yeah, why? Once he's gone, you move on.
Yep. Come on. Talking of move on, we're going backstage. We're with Bischoff, and he is with Terry Taylor, formerly Terence Taylor, formerly the Red Rooster. This was incredible. Go on, you look like you're...
like there's too much Terry Taylor on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that he's just here doing a promo, and then he talks. We find out he is going to be like an extra official for the match, and he's talking about how he's going to call it right down the middle, even if he has to make an unpopular decision. And I couldn't help but just, does anyone give a fuck about Terry Taylor? Like,
It was random, because last time we saw him, he was in this, what do you call it? He was in this faction with Terry Reynolds, and they were all computered up, and they were sort of highfalutin characters. Now he's just good old Terry Taylor again.
And it's being told to us quite a lot through the night that Ric Flair against Rick Rude is this big, huge, important match. And I get it. I buy that. They're two big names. So who cares if Terry Taylor's involved?
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, he doesn't seem to have anything to do with the storyline.
Yeah.
Or anything. It's also a consecutive year where we've got a match with two referees. It didn't go well last year.
It really did.
And also, they start trying to explain to us that Vader is the WCW champion. Rick Rude is the big gold belt heavyweight champion, I think is what they try to tell us. And then they're referring him to it as what are they referring to? Just as the heavyweight champion of the world.
But in the end, there's like a international is what they keep referring to Rude as. International heavyweight champion of
This
the
like
world.
almost like for like what happened at the last year's pay-per-view with the NWA heavyweight title. It's like they went copy and paste in some areas. It's bizarre because they didn't. That didn't work. 1992 sucked.
Yeah. So we're not yet. We don't yet have. Bischoff has not taken over yet, has he? He's just still an announcer guy.
Yeah.
We're probably still a bit of time away from Bischoff taking over.
I think
it could be in the next year. Could be
93. I think within 93. I think. Aye.
Oh, God.
I think
Hulk Hogan's going to be on 94, isn't he?
You know it, brother.
Damn it!
I heard that Hulk, Mr. T, and Michael Jackson were going to be backstage. There was a horrible odour. Yep, you know it. 1994, we're into Hogan territory. I believe that Dusty, and we'll talk about this, but I believe Dusty was responsible for a lot of the finishes on this card.
Okay.
You're good at a lot of things, Dusty, but finishes may not have been the one thing. Right, let's go back to the ring. We have got Ricky the Dragon Steamboat taking on Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, who is accompanied by the Assassin, and the Assassin is bursting out of his mask. He's like Cartman or something. What? There was a guy in WWF that kind of looked like this, wasn't there?
Yeah, I don't think I ever look him up, because I remember thinking, who is this guy?
He came out with like the Insane Clown Posse stuff and all that, didn't he?
Yeah. This guy's pretty old here.
Is he?
Yeah. He seems to have either been Jody Hamilton, Ricky Monroe, Assassin, Masked Assassin #1, the Masked Assassin, Mighty Bolo, the Assassin, and the Flame.
In the territories, I think there was the Assassin, and then there was like the Assassin 2 or the Masked Assassin 2. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there was two different ones. But from what I can understand of what they're saying on the commentary, he's not normally with Paul Orndorff, and he just seems to be there for reasons unknown. Yeah,
he's just getting himself involved. He seems to have some beef with Steamboat.
I see. Okay. What's your history on Paul Orndorff? Have you seen much of him?
Yeah, like I remember him from very early. Is it like WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2?
I think he's in the very first main event, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And, he was obviously, I think, a big star in his day. The thing I most know him for is the apparent backstage fight he had with Vader. That's what you hear most about with Paul Orndorff. And I think he was around WCW for a long time, but this is probably towards the end of him being active in the ring, I would have thought.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah,
what do you think of his in-ring?
Nah.
Not for you? I quite enjoyed him.
I couldn't get into the match. Like, I think, remember, what was it we watched Steamboat? It was Steamboat v. Pillman. And it just didn't do it for us. And when, like, I see Ricky Steamboat's coming out for a match, I'm like, maybe this will be good. I've probably not seen a big percentage of his work, but you hear everything about how good a worker he was, and I just really struggled to get into the match. I felt like there was a lot of like Steamboat seemed to be going after the arm for the entire match, and that's fine. You have a strategy, you have a theory, but the whole while I also found like they kept talking about the assassin lurking on the outside, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not really fussed about this assassin guy. They were trying to force it to be a story for me. I couldn't get into the match.
I enjoyed bits of it. I quite enjoyed I feel like it ramped up a bit more towards the end, and we started getting some false finishes. But it took an awful long time to get there, and I wasn't invested enough, and you clearly weren't invested either. The end, the finish, is absolutely shocking.
Oh yes, yeah.
So what happens is Steamboat ends up outside the ring. The assassin takes something out from his jacket and rubs it on his mask, and then headbutts Steamboat on the back of the head, which is enough to help Orndorff win by getting Steamboat counted out. Now, unless whatever he put on his mask turned his mask into an anvil, what did he put on his mask?
Yeah, I don't know. Because they seem to be trying to tell you about it, but I don't think you ever got a really good shot of what was actually happening. Because Schiavone's trying to explain he put something in his mask, and I think Ventura, being the heel announcer, is no selling it. It's like, I didn't see anything, but I'm sat there thinking, well, I didn't really see much going on myself, and I'm watching.
Liquid.
Yeah, I mean, what was that supposed to do? But also, like, through the match, now this is maybe a Steamboat thing that I don't think ever picked up on, because he was always a babyface from what I remember, but he seems to go absolutely crazy at some point in each match, and just starts like getting in the face of the ref and going all out attack on the individual. But Orndorff at a point was out of the ring for I think 3 minutes. And yet Orndorff won by quite a speedy count out. Now, Steamboat was selling this, whatever's supposed to have happened to the back of his head, because he's laying flat out basically outside the ring for ages. But I just found it strange that Orndorff was out for so long, the ref did nothing. And then Steamboat's out and the ref's like, I'm immediately counting this. 10.
Well,
done.
It was Nick Patrick, so...
maybe.
You know.
Maybe.
He's got previous.
Yeah.
A bit of a stinker, probably. So 2 stinkers on the bounce.
Definitely not a good finish.
Let's make it 3, shall we? We've got a World Television Championship match next. Apparently this match is high profile enough for a young Michael Buffer to appear. And do a bit of announcing. We've got the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, taking on Lord Stephen Regal, who has Sir William with him as his manager.
Yeah, who was this Sir William guy? Did you ever look it up?
I did. Someone Dundee. He was Scottish Australian.
Okay.
That is about the depth of my research on that one. I actually thought it could have been Lord Alfred Hayes in a different guise, but it wasn't.
Okay.
So almost immediately we get the time limit mentioned. So I thought, okay, so we're going 15 minutes. Cool.
Me too.
I have never seen the British Bulldog wrestle like this, and if he wrestled like this more, I'd probably have enjoyed his career a hell of a lot more.
See, it's like we've talked a few times about Regal in the past, how he's a bit different. His style's a bit different, and it kind of, I think, forces an opponent into a different match a lot of the time, or a different type of match. I didn't think this was that bad.
No,
but
I referred to it as a stinker,
but I knew it was going the time limit. Why did they have to indicate these things so clearly that it's going to do it? Like,
for the first match, say that it's got a time limit of 50 minutes. For the second match, say it's got a time limit of 50 minutes. Then when you say that the third match has got a time limit of 50 minutes, people won't be like, this is going the time limit.
I've a funny feeling I'm not a big Bulldog fan. Like, we remember, we're only, 15 months or something on from his greatest ever moment at Wembley.
I thought you meant smoking crack with Jim Neidhart.
And I remember being quite entertained by the Bulldogs as a tag team, but that was in like the really early days of seeing stuff. But him on his own, I don't know, I just picture him as he's got like 3 power moves and that's kind of about it. But I thought Regal got a wee bit more out of him here than the norm.
And he's obviously got that in his locker. I've got something in my note here saying it's amazing how such supposed sort of mundane moves, arm drags and arm holds and reversals could be so engaging and enjoyable.
Yeah.
And they mean something.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the start of this, and most of the majority of it. But like you said, you knew it was going to a time limit draw. So I think they even made a bit of a pig's ear of getting it to. I think Bulldog went for the power slam. Was still like 15 seconds to go.
Yeah, because there's no way Regal was supposed to kick out of that power slam, because he kicks out. And right at that moment, I thought that he's clearly supposed to cover him with like 2 seconds left or something. That's
But to be fair, he grabs him, does a pile driver, and gets the 2-1-2, and then the time's up. So, Regal retains his title, but WCW, you do this too often. Hey, where are we going next? We're going to Vader and Harley.
We're gonna spin the wheel, aren't we? Oh yes.
These two are a good partnership, Harley Race and Vader. It just works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like that. It looks right, and I think for what Vader was, it needs to be someone as legitimate and as respected as a Harley Race was, but someone with that heel tendency, and he's just kind of got the shoulders to carry it off. Harley Race. It does work.
Perfect. So we're spinning the wheel and making the deal, and thank God it's not a coal miner's glove match. We're getting a Texas death match, or a version of a WCW version of a Texas death match.
Have you any idea if this one was legit, or did they plan?
Nah, I don't know. I hope they would have learned from last year. Well, they've obviously learned something, because there's no Jake Roberts anywhere near the pay-per-view.
Was coal miner's glove on the board?
Oh, I didn't notice.
I can't remember.
Probably. See, even Vader's presentation, he's coming out and doing all that barking and all that. He just looks like a monster.
This is the Vader I am impressed by. This is the Vader that's fun to see and watch, and scary. Like, you would not want to run into that Vader. He
looks unstoppable. It's cool that they've got the belt on him and all that. Brilliant. So we've got that to look forward to later on, which takes us to our fourth match, which is for the United States Heavyweight title. That is between a rematch from 1991. The Natural Dustin Rhodes taking on Stunning Steve Austin.
First line of my notes. Oh my God, they wouldn't do 2-time limit draws back to back, would they? Maybe if there was a spin the wheel, make the deal in between, they'd think people wouldn't notice.
I've actually had to scroll down here to see what the finish was, because I can remember it being an absolute awful finish, but they managed to go out their way to not make it that, but just make it just as bad.
Yeah. They messed up the finish. I didn't mind some of this match, some of the interaction between the two. There's I am still always impressed by Austin, and I know he's not in a prominent position. I think here he's been in the tag team with Pillman.
Yep.
Because they mentioned the tag team.
He's got the Hollywood Blondes waistcoat on.
And is Pillman injured or something?
Just on his way back for injury. So I think they say that Pillman's back, but Austin's fighting as a singles just now.
And they talk about Austin having held the TV title for 18 months, and that being a record.
Amazing.
And yeah, I'm always impressed by him, and I think he and Dustin are quite a good pairing, but I don't know if it's just because we're watching year on year. I just feel like I've seen this, and I've seen it. It feels like a few times, because we've seen them have a singles match, and we've seen them in a tag match against each other as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like, 3 shows in a row, or 3 out of 4 or whatever, I've seen this pairing, which feels a bit much.
It does, and I don't think I appreciated how interwoven these two, their careers were. It made me go and watch the Ringmaster's debut, and I think the Ringmaster and Goldust debuted round about the same time in WWF as well, round about 96.
Okay.
very early '96, which is interesting. I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something. I don't think you like it.
Go for it.
I think this Austin is the best Austin.
Oh, it's controversial. Hey. Okay, give me your reasoning.
Okay, like charisma is there
Oh, absolutely.
in buckets. He looks amazing. The hair looks class. The bleach blonde hair looks amazing. He's bumping all over the shop like he's Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
He's selling like a maniac. He looks big, like Dustin Rhodes is big, and Austin doesn't look small compared to him. He can do so much more in the ring.
I think in ring, I wouldn't argue it at all. I think he was better here than when he had his hottest run.
Maybe I don't think this is the best version, but I think the potential of what Austin was here is better than what he actually became.
Which was one of the greatest ever.
Which is the aye.
Which is crazy to think.
I appreciate how stupid that sounds, but
it does make you wonder. I think I've always wondered if he'd never got the injury, I think he still would have slowed down, because I don't think you can keep bumping like he was bumping here when you are the guy who is off and on for 3 or 4 years carrying the title and in the main events. I don't think you can be bumping all in this same way. But I do always wonder if he'd never had the injury, what could have happened in WWE. See, I talked before about this. He had, very entertaining matches with people like Kurt Angle. But what could he have done in those kind of matches if he hadn't had the limitations?
Yeah, I think what people do now with the whole fantasy booking deal. Do you think people at that time were like, imagine stunning Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels in 1993?
I mean,
versus Bret Hart versus.
I think it seems obvious looking back, but I always wonder what Vince saw him as. Because, he brought him in and made him the ringmaster. And it wasn't kind of till that hadn't worked that he got to kind of start being, I think, a character that was a bit closer to what he wanted to be. And then it started to work. But I imagine Vince would have seen this version of him and thought, he could work first or second match on our card. Yeah, go and bring him in. I don't think he'd be like, that guy's going to the top.
So Cornette. So I listened to Cornette about this. Cornette said that Vince had never seen Austin.
Okay.
And he was recommended, and he's recommended by a lot of people, and they sold him as this amazing technical wrestler. And that's why Vince then decided to call him the ringmaster.
There was always the thing as well about how Vince had it in his mind he wasn't to speak. Now, he aligned him with Ted DiBiase at first, but apparently it was a thing. Vince didn't want him to speak. And
so bizarre.
Like, because even, see when he left WCW, like some of his promos and stuff and interview segments in WCW as part of the
Deadly
Hollywood
Alliance.
Blondes and the Dangerous Alliance.
Dangerous Alliance.
Every time he spoke, I thought he had something. He carried something there. And I suppose it makes more sense if Vince never saw it. I mean, never maybe himself saw any of the work. But I wonder why you would just decide, without looking into the work, this guy's not going to speak.
Cornette says that Vince would never know really about people coming in. And he gave an example. But he said he only goes based on when he meets someone face to face and he starts asking about their interests and all that. And that's how people end up with these stupid gimmicks, because they'll say, I like doing whatever in my spare time. And he said that when he met Mick Foley, it had his name down on the folder as Michael Foley, and Vince kept referring to him as Mike. Hey Mike, how you doing? And all this sort of stuff. So he has at that point anyway, he had zero sort of understanding of who these people are, which is mental.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. I mean, if this is your business, this is your company, you would have thought, well, first thing that I need to do is get my hands on all the best talent that's out there. And part of that, you would have thought, is what guys can talk. Give me tape of that guy talking. You've told me he's a great worker, but let me hear some tape
What
of him
else can
talking.
he do?
So
How
I
well-rounded
want
is
to
he?
know what I'm working with. What have we got here? And to just, I don't know, not watch anything. And he's probably leaning on people to do that for him. I mean, you hear plenty. I'm sure Cornette, JR, were recommending all kinds of people to him, but I don't know. It seems weird. The whole thing seems weird.
I guess there's that thing of what we've heard about Heyman. You push too much and Vince will just
Yeah.
go against it, so it's maybe
Yeah.
part of that as well.
Yeah.
Stick the videos of him cutting promos as Hulk Hogan in ECW in front of him, and then, surely he sees something. But
Yeah.
no, I feel a wee bit this. They've milked this rivalry. It's maybe just because we've watched these year on year, but at least Dustin isn't doing the pinning, the 1, 2, 3, slapping the canvas type thing with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird.
Austin was taking hell of bumps, hellacious bumps. He's going flying off the top turnbuckle down to the floor and stuff like that. But the finish is just stinking.
Yeah, I don't know what was like. Having watched it, so Austin does a Thez press into a cover, but he's got his feet on the ropes quite clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Nick Patrick counts the 3. But then they're up, and there's no second ref or anything, is there? It's Nick Patrick saying no, actually no.
No, I think.
Or is there a second ref?
I think Randy Anderson was the original ref, and he gets bumped. And
that's it.
Nick Patrick comes out, counts the 3. We get a bell.
Yeah.
Signify and Pee Wee Anderson says, nah.
Nah, yeah, didn't count. Keep going. And at this point, Austin's away looking for the bell. He's leaning through the ropes. And Dustin rolls him up and pins him, and that's the 3 count, and that's the 3 count that counts.
Mm-hmm.
So Austin leaves though. So he hits Dustin with the bell, and then he just walks off with it.
Leaves with the bell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Halloween Havoc 1994. It's Stunning Steve Austin versus Dustin Rhodes.
There's a video segment after this for Battle Bowl, and then there's you're back to Schiavone and Ventura, and obviously Tony Schiavone's dressed as Jenny Ventura, but Ventura says to Tony Schiavone, "I'll be there, Tony," but he says it. And he's staring at him, for ages. And I was thinking, is this a bit that hasn't really that nothing's come of? Because it goes on to the point it's uncomfortable. And I was like, you need to move on. This is getting weird.
That's a good Ventura impression, by the way. That was good. It must be round about this point where he starts pulling off Schiavone's moustache and all that sort of stuff, and it starts to become a little bit annoying.
Yeah.
What was Battle Bowl? Was that its own pay-per-view? Was it?
Yeah, so I think previously they did an event that had a Battle Bowl match, and they'd advertised that, but now they're indicating Battle Bowl is its own event now.
Right.
I can't remember what a Battle Bowl is now.
Probably some overly produced, nonsensical nightmare. If the what do you call it? The Chamber of Horrors was anything to go by.
Yeah.
Okay, we get a wee bit build up for our next match here. We have got the World Tag Team Champions Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio. They are, what are we doing?
So
go on.
They have won the belts the night before. So on WCW Saturday night, they have won the belts from the Nasty Boys. And it sounded like this match was booked tonight, but it was going to be Nasty Boys defending against Scorpio and Bagwell, and I couldn't work out why you would flip it. I was trying to get sort of round in my head why just on TV you'd want to do the switch just for them to win it back.
You're trying to work out WCW creative.
Oh, I was.
It's a
Yeah,
dangerous
I
game
should
you're
just stop
playing.
that. Yeah, I should just stop that right now. Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you think of Young Bagwell and Two Cold Scorpio as a tag team?
See, I always liked Scorpio. Like in terms of just like he was entertaining, quite an extravagant moveset, kind of an odd guy from I remember. Is that a Dark Side of the Ring episode? I remember.
Oh, really?
Seeing him featured. It was one where WCW did a show in North Korea.
Yeah.
And he's on the tour, and I think he tries to kill Hawk or something like that. Yeah. We've all done it. Yeah, and I couldn't think if we'd seen Bagwell before, or if this was our first in the journey.
I think it's the first.
He's young. He's very young here.
Yes, he's good. He's decent.
Yeah, he can work in the ring. And, it's a matter of time now that, Hogan's going to be here from next year where he's going to, I think, stop working in the ring and just... but I didn't think they were too bad a team. Obviously, I found the booking of the whole thing quite confusing. Nasty Boys are a team that we've seen and quite enjoyed. Whereas maybe at times in our WWF lives we didn't.
Aye.
There was something a bit more edgy,
rough. Yep.
Yeah,
gritty
about them in WCW. But I did think here they're maybe starting to go towards a bit more the WWF version. Like I think there's something about just putting people in their armpits and things like that, and it felt a little bit closer to going to that. I didn't think this was awful. I thought it was all right.
Aye, same. Yeah. I thought it was all right as well. I like the Nasty Boys as a sort of thuggish team. Mm-hmm. Definitely do. You're definitely right about that sort of the caricaturized version of them. It's just all about.
Yeah.
At what point did they meet Hulk Hogan? That's what I would ask.
Well, if he's on the next show, we're definitely going to have them. We're going to have Hacksaw. We're going to have a few.
Oh, the Beefcake probably at some point. not what was his name in the NWO again?
Oh, what was it?
I can't remember. I'm sure it'll come back to us.
It's going to annoy me now.
Brutus Beefcake, NWO. Oh, come on. Can I see it coming up? The Disciple.
That's it. The Disciple.
Please no Disciple. Yeah, you knew what was going to happen here. You knew that Bagwell was getting isolated, and you knew that Two Cold Scorpio was getting the hot tag. It went on a little bit too long. Highlight of the match would be Bagwell giving Sags and Missy Hyatt the double noggin knocker.
Yep.
Probably. And Two Cold Scorpio's 450 splash. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah.
Do you know what sucks? When you think that someone's used a foreign object to heelishly win the match, and then the replay you realise that they took their boot off and hit them over the head with it.
Yeah.
Another fun finish.
These finishes are bad. Like, it's a phrase, isn't it? A dusty finish.
Mm-hmm.
And is that like to mean a non-finish, basically, or a clusterfuck finish? Or...
I think a dusty finish is very specific circumstances. Because I always thought a dusty finish sort of meant like not a clean finish, but it doesn't. It refers to like a sort of very specific type of circumstances. But in this situation, a dusty finish is a shit finish for every single match. Unfortunately, is that you looking up?
Yeah, dusty finish is a nickname given to a ending of a wrestling match in which one wrestler appears to have scored a win, only to have the decision reversed on a technicality.
Ah, there you go. So
Okay.
WCW in the 90s, every pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think we all acknowledge the good Dusty Rhodes did, but yeah, not maybe the best creative when it comes to finishing off a match.
Talking of Dusty Rhodes, did you notice Schiavone kept referring to the Shockmaster as Uncle Fred?
I did, yes.
Did
I
you wonder why?
Yes.
Apparently that's what Dustin Rhodes referred to the Shockmaster as.
Oh.
I have no idea why that would then lead Schiavone to use that.
Yeah, come on, Schiavone.
There's
Don't bring all your insider.
There's a funny video on YouTube of Dusty talking through the Shockmaster debut, and he says that Dustin's sitting watching it on telly going, "Look, it's Uncle Fred," when the helmet comes off.
Amazing.
Not Dustin, Cody. Sorry, Cody.
Oh, that makes more sense, I suppose. Yeah, age-wise, that makes sense.
Yeah, that'd be weird
Nice.
if Dustin was sitting saying that.
Nice. Nice.
Okay, backstage with Bischoff, he's with Colonel Robert Parker and Sid. And Sid, I love Sid. Love him. He's amazing. He does the whisper thing, and then he does it.
Yeah.
Call me the Grim Reaper, because I'm going to kill Sting.
Nice.
He says he's going to take his soul.
I really enjoyed the promo. And then I started imagining it was somebody else delivering it, and I don't think it would work at all. It's just the fact that it's Sid. And you look for these moments where someone draws you in, and we know he is not going to go to the ring and murder Sting. We know that's not going to happen. But the way he speaks does just make you believe that is what his character wants to do.
100%.
And I just enjoy that. I don't think I realised how good a promo he was, but we've said this a few times now.
Aye. He's amazing. He's so good.
Yeah.
He's intense. The intensity is amazing. He doesn't need Robert Parker with him.
Nah, I kind of thought that was actually just a bit of an annoying addition, to be honest.
Saying that, like most of these matches, most of the heels have got a somebody out there, eh? Apart from Austin, really.
Yeah.
Okay, they're billing this match, which is Sid versus Sting. They're billing it as like a sort of face of the franchise type thing.
Yeah.
What does that mean to people, as wrestling fans in 1993?
It seems weird. Like, I know that looking back, Sting has been referred to as having been the franchise player in WCW. And I get it. He's the guy that never left and was so often near the top of the card.
The
and
Francesco Totti of WCW, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Nice.
And you heard it loads with like John Cena in the more modern era. He was the franchise.
Face that runs the place.
But here, and Sid's probably jumped back and forth as much as any performer ever has. I don't know. It seems weird. It seems like they're trying, despite the fact you've got these two big name performers here who could both be in the main event. It feels like they're trying to shoehorn in an angle.
Yeah. Or like maybe appease someone. I think Sting was a bit of a political player, a little bit.
Yeah, I can fully believe that.
Certainly from a contractual point of view. So maybe this is their way of saying, look, there's two heavyweight titles on the card. You're not fighting for either, but you are fighting for the franchise.
Yeah.
Face of the franchise sort of thing.
Yeah.
What do you think of the match? We've already had this match, 91.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I got annoyed by Colonel Rob. Yeah. It was never going to be lots of classic wrestling moves. I thought they gave Sid a lot early on. He's so good at. I believe he's psychotic at times, Sid. And he's so good at putting that across. And quite a lot of times they had Sting attempting a comeback, like a wee hero's comeback, and Sid was just cutting him off. I don't think I ever got fooled into thinking Sid's just going to dominate and then win. but I quite enjoyed it. The, the, there was a bit of a bear hug situation on the go that lasted a wee while, which maybe just is necessary. I'm sure it's probably not that easy for Sid to go 100 miles an hour through a full match. And then you got some sort of, some classic Sting stuff, but I was entertained enough by this.
Nice. I loved. I think Sid referred to this in his promo before. He says he was going to pick him up by one hand and slam him to the ground or something like that, and he does that exact thing.
Yeah.
Picks him up, one-handed choke slam. It's so impressive.
Yeah, I think he maybe had the best choke slam, Sid. There's something about him doing it.
It's a controversial statement, but possibly that one is just unbelievable. It's so cool because Sting's a big guy.
Yeah.
The Sting hits him with. Sid hits Sting with a chair shot at one point. Have you ever seen the sort of compilation of Hogan and his really, really little tame chair shots? It was a bit like one of those, like he's talked about murdering this man and then it gives him a wee dunk.
Just a little thing. I've heard that I can't remember seeing it, but I've heard that the worst ever chair shot was on Austin, and it was by Briscoe when he was one of the Stooges. Is that he had to run out and do a chair shot because I think Bossman had missed his cue or something like that, and he was supposed to have run out and wasn't there. And apparently Briscoe's like winded up to do the chair shot and suddenly has this moment where he real life thinks to himself, "That's Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's the Golden Goose. What if I hurt him?" So he just does this little tap on him.
Amazing. That's class. Sting. Sid kind of dominates most of this match. Sting gets his big comeback. He hits 2 Stinger splashes. Colonel Rob gets nailed on the apron. And then the match, all the lights go out and the match ends. Well, that would have been more preferable to what happens. Sting, who is wearing bright green trousers, bear that in mind, neon green, migraine-inducing green trousers. Sid, who is wearing black pants and black boots. They're both stood by the apron. Colonel Robert Parker grabs 2 legs. He believes he's grabbing both Sting's legs to help Sid roll him up, but instead he grabs one of Sting's and one of Sid's. I don't believe that Robert Parker could have pulled either of them into the floor anyway. Certainly no Sid.
No.
Anyway, Sid gets rolled up by Sting after Robert Parker mistakenly pulls the wrong leg. And at this point you think, is someone pulling my leg, Adam? Because these finishes are unbelievable.
There's a definite theme emerging here. But I was waiting for Sid to just absolutely destroy the Colonel, and it doesn't even happen.
He just looks hurt.
Yeah.
He's really hurt his feelings.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to smash him as well. Another stink of a finish, but a decent match. These two work well together.
Yeah, they do. I think I would always worry, I've maybe not seen that many Sting matches. He's maybe one I would look at and I wonder what sort of moveset he's actually got. But he did a hell of a lot of selling in that match, and I think he has done with Sid before as well. And I think you've got a guy, the size, the aggression, the maybe slightly unstable nature of Sid. I think that's what you want him to be. Even if he's in against your top guy, you want him to be dominating a lot of the match.
Yep.
And then the other guy just finds a way to win.
Absolutely. Definitely. So an alright one there. We get some backstage footage of Vader knocking the shit out of Harley Race's hands. And in contrast, Cactus Jack seems to be sitting sort of murmuring away to himself.
Yeah. I don't think I realised, I was aware of the Cactus Jack character, and I'd seen some matches before, he became Mankind in the first instance in WWE. But I don't think I was aware that he was doing some of this same sort of, I associate what he's doing here as a very mankind thing that he's doing. I didn't realise that was kind of a little part of his Cactus Jack character as well.
And going back to what we were saying about Austin, isn't it amazing that this character, which to me is wildly over, but it's maybe just retrospectively wildly over. I don't know how it was actually received in 1993, but if you've signed that guy, you would think you would use Cactus Jack. Just this...
and it took a really long time before they did.
Absolutely. What was it going to be? Mason the Mutilator? That's what they should have went
something
with.
like that,
Okay, so this is for the this next match is for the International World Gold Belt Heavyweight Championship, whatever it is. This has got the extra second ref of Terry Taylor, so we're really up in the stakes. We have got Ric Flair accompanied by Fifi taking on ravishing Rick Rude.
Now, by the time the commentators are trying to explain to us as an audience for the 20th time why the international heavyweight title is now being recognised as real title, I just don't care. If you've had to tell me that many times, then you've overcomplicated the story.
Well said. This seemed to be their way of like basically selling that they're doing house shows internationally.
Yeah. Like I was fairly enthusiastic for this before it started. And there's the story, and there's this whole... You've got some classic Ric Flair, but as soon as Rick Rude comes out and hits me with a Louisiana Losers, I was like, that's not what I was looking for.
You wanted Sweat Hogs.
I did.
It needs to be in Detroit. They need to be Motor City Sweat Hogs. It makes it so much better. Did you know that Fifi was the Ric Flair's Wendy? Was that his wife or his?
Oh, I didn't know. I just thought Fifi was a random just there for the day.
Another one. Yeah. Rude's got Fifi on one leg and Flair another leg and a big pumpkin on his arse.
I did like I remembered them from WWF days, the tights, because he definitely did them with Warrior when he had the issues with Warrior. He also did them with Jake, and I was listening to a Jake podcast, and he was asked about it, and he was saying him running out wasn't planned. But he'd basically said Rude had been kind of ribbing him for ages because it wasn't a match between the two. I think it was an interview segment or a promo or something, and Rude had said, "I'm going to do the thing with the tights, and your wife is going to be on my tights." And Jake was like, "No, you're not doing it. You're not doing it." And when he revealed them for the interview segment, Jake just apparently basically said to Vince, I'm going down in the ring," and Vince was like, "Okay, pal." So it was it never became a real fight or anything like that, but I think he ripped them off him basically.
Wow.
So yeah, that was just a little story that I thought of when the tights became pretty prominent here.
That's funny. Could have been worse. Could have been Grizzly Smith and his companion from the road.
Oh Jesus!
My bad. Okay, what did you think of Flair versus Rude? You said you were quite looking forward to it. Isn't that always the way? We seem to be up for these matches, and then
I really couldn't get into this one. Like there was some okay, interactions between the two and stuff like that. I don't know, half focus on fucking Red Rooster out in the ring, out in the apron. I was like, oh.
It's just a non-event, Terry Taylor being there, and they build it up to be something, or it's going to be something.
And he keeps getting half involved, but not fully involved. I started thinking at a point, well, he's going to screw Flair. That's what's going to happen here, because I think he has basically always wanted to be Ric Flair. That's kind of, I think, the thing that's the story that's out there, and probably always saw himself as a top guy. So I thought he's going to screw him, but even what comes to be in the end was kind of a non-event.
Yeah. There were some things I liked. I liked that Flair got the figure 4 on really early. Rude comes off the top rope, misses a stomp, and Flair goes woo straight into it. Figure 4's on. I thought that's different.
Yeah,
that was cool. But then I have no issue with a match slowing down. I think if things are done logically, I'm happy. But yeah, this
Yeah.
really slows down.
Yeah, I'd actually wondered, and I could be way off, and I've not researched, I've not looked into anything about it, but I wondered if Rude was carrying an injury because he sells the leg the entire rest of the match after the figure four. Now, they've told the story of the figure four goes on early, but it did make me think, I wonder if he's limited in some way, because it kind of just goes on, and the pace does really slow. And I kind of think Rude in his matches, it's like fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow normally. But this just felt, from his part, slow.
Slow, yeah. I don't want to pick holes in what you're saying. That there's a point where he comes off the top rope and misses and sells the knee. And I like that.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the top rope again.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And doesn't sell it the next time.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm out.
You have to have a bit of consistency on the go there. Yeah.
Okay, so Randy Anderson's a referee here. He gets taken out towards the end. Naturally, here comes Terry Taylor, but he also gets hurt. As there's a pretty brutal collision with him. This is a perfect opportunity for Rick Rude. He pulls out the brass knucks. I think he pulls them out from his trunks, does he?
Yeah.
But they fall off him.
Yep.
Flair gets thrown them by a cameraman or something like that.
Now, did you notice earlier on in the match, Flair kind of, I think accidentally, collided with a cameraman when he went over the ropes. And I think it was the same cameraman.
Oh, really?
I thought he's maybe just his way of saying, we're all cool here. I'll help you win.
Here's the knucks.
Yeah. But he basically put them right in front of him, I think.
Mm-hmm. Flair pops him on, cracks Rude with him. Taylor is back in the ring. He counts to 2, but then does the Shane McMahon. I thought he was going to give him a double fingers, imagine. But nah, he just stops. And Randy Anderson says, nah, it's a disqualification, mate.
Mm-hmm. So you couldn't even really pin that on Rooster. You know, the ref has said to him, I've seen this happen, so actually no, stop counting. Whereas because I was waiting for the screw job done by Rooster, it wasn't really a thing.
Like, what was the difference between it being Terry Taylor and being Nick Patrick or anyone else?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered, would it?
No.
So Rude tries to kidnap Fifi because, he's not lost his belt or anything, so why not just take Flair's woman instead? But Flair fights him, puts a figure 4 on the stage, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Every match is a mess at the end. Every match.
I thought that the match as a whole was a wee bit disappointing, that one. Just with the names involved. Thought that could have been better. But yeah, I think by this point I've just got used to the terrible finishes.
Do you think that Rick Rude has sold us wolf tickets? Do you think he's actually that good in the ring? Or do you think we maybe just romanticise because he didn't have that longer career?
He had an incredible look. And he had his entertaining tights, and he had his sometimes amazing intro in a promo.
Cut my music.
What I may need to go back and look at again, I think we watched one, is his matches against Warrior, because if he got a match out of Warrior, then I think that would show you something.
We watched a cage match from SummerSlam 93?
Was it not very
90?
good? I'm
90.
trying to remember.
It wasn't very good.
Yeah. I think he maybe had 3 high-profile matches with Warrior, because they battled back and forth over the Intercontinental title a couple of times. Maybe I'll give him a chance and go back and watch one of those.
There's a Mania match, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's that when he wins it back.
For
maybe.
the Intercontinental, yep.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. And then Warrior's kind of on the push to the world title picture after that.
Oh well, good luck with that. I won't be joining you for it. So we're on to our main event. We've spun the wheel. Let's take the deal, or make the deal, or whatever you do with it. It's for the WCW title. It's the champion. Is he just Vader at this point? It's a Big Van?
I don't remember them saying Big Van.
He's just Vader. He's done away with the alien Prometheus style thing that he used to wear, which was
Yeah.
cool. But he's here with Harley Race. He's taking on Cactus Jack. It's a Texas death match. WCW have told us that although it's a Texas death match, we'll also have Falls Count Anywhere, and participants get a 30-second rest period after they've been pinned. And then, if the person can't stand after 10 seconds, then the match is over. Which I think a Texas death match is not all Falls Count Anywhere, and it's normally just the pinfall, then you've got 10 seconds as part of your 3.
Yeah.
I
So I was confused by that at the start, because I think when they're trying to explain it, but they say something like pinfalls don't count. Now, what they mean is pinfall doesn't end the match. But obviously you need the pinfall to then move on to the next stage of, Yep. So they're trying to explain it, but it's a little bit convoluted. But I don't think I'd grasped what was going on until the first time it happens.
Yeah, same. So this is, I don't know if this is a 5-star match, I've not even looked, but for me this is one of the best Vader matches, one of the best Foley matches. I think anything he takes in this match, maybe put aside King of the Ring 98, is equivalent to some of the most horrendous bumps he's taken. They've both just decided, let's just make this stiff as hell and make it look believable. Let's go and make it look like a real fight. This is amazing to me.
And it really does look like a real fight, almost to like a troubling extent at times. So they've I don't think I had seen this match before, but when we were talking about this show the last time, you'd mentioned that this was one of your favourite matches, and I was like, oh, okay. Now, I did really enjoy it, but I don't think I was prepared for the violence in 1993 on a pay-per-view main event. It caught me by surprise how brutal a lot of it is, because you know when you're watching a film and you get like a ridiculously over the top sequence, and you're like, you can't really take it seriously because you're like, it's too produced. That guy sprang 40 feet in the air, whatever. It's over the top, so it doesn't land as a real thing. But when you see something that looks like a real fight, it can be way less bloody or violent than the other thing, but you're like, oh, because it feels and looks real. This felt and looked so real that I was like, I felt in pain. But from moves that you wouldn't necessarily get a huge crowd pop for, but they're so real that you're like, you almost feel a bit of pain yourself.
So what would be an example of that in this match, do you think?
So there's some. Now, if I got an elbow drop by Foley,
yes,
he lands hard.
He does it off the stage into that little bit between the railings and the stage.
And that looked like it hurt, but in a non-cartoonish, non-over-the-top way. It just looked like it hurt. And there's I don't know that I was expecting chair involvements and stuff like that on a pay-per-view main event in 93. This must have seemed, at the time, like so different
barbaric.
Yeah. Now, I think people could fall into a trap of watching it now and being like, oh, we see that all the time. But I don't know. I don't know if it's their selling or the fact, I don't know, it just looks and feels so real.
It feels like they've said, I'll trust you with my body. Please trust me with yours. Just let me do things to you. And you do the same to me. It's like Cactus has just said, these punches that you do in the corner, just do them.
Yeah.
I'll no sell them, just hit me. And
I can believe they would both do that. as and you hear a lot of performers prefer it that way. They're like,
Mhm.
I don't want to risk something looking shit, so just hit me.
That's the whole Shamrock thing with the Rock chair shot.
Yeah,
He told him to hit him as hard as he possibly could.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, I like just a few, and it's not even. And I think this is maybe part of what also makes it feels real. It's not constant. It's not like every single move you're like, oh my god, did that kill him?
Aye,
It's a few that are scattered in there that is like, oh, I don't quite know how he's moving again right now.
aye. Really simply, Vader hits Cactus Jack with an unbelievable clothesline at one point. He just completely
Yeah.
floors him. It's not over the top selling what we'd think of like Mr. Perfect type selling or that. It's no selling like that. It's just like boof, douche, smash to the mat.
And then Foley does a few instances where he lands like a sack of potatoes, and I'm convinced, oh, he's out. Like that's what's in my mind at the point is that's because like you get a lot of, it's probably overselling where people are flipping about and doing things like that, whereas that is more like, I've landed, I'm in agony, I'm not going to move for a few seconds. It's more like that. It's like if you're watching a game of football and the guy rolls over 20 times after the challenge, you know that guy's not hurt because he's rolling over 20 times. When a guy just lands and there's no movement, that's when you're more like, I think that guy's hurt.
Nice way of putting it. I never liked when RVD did his frog splash and then held his stomach theatrically and like bounced about the place like I've done this move, but it's also really hurt me. Whereas like he didn't, if he'd just done it and be like, I don't know, like slumped to the floor sort of thing.
Yeah, because the moving about as much as he is, I mean, if it's that sore, Rob, you're just going to hurt it more.
Exactly. But there's no point. There's quite a lot of falls in this match. There's no point us going through all of them. Both guys end up covered in blood. I would guess both of them are. I don't think that's blading or anything like that. I think they just certainly Foley looks like he's been opened up by something.
Yeah.
Vader at one point hits Cactus with the leg of a chair. He tries to hit him in the back with a chair, but he cuts him with a leg. It looks agony. And that's there's a time when they're on the stage and Foley's on Vader's back. He's kind of trying to get him in a sleeper or some description, and Vader just slams backwards. And we've seen that before. I think we've seen it with plenty of people. Remember Bam Bam Bigelow and Taz doing it in ECW and they went through the ring.
Yeah.
But the way that they hit the floor, the size of Vader, like there's no give.
No.
That looks brutal. I don't know how he didn't shatter everything inside him.
Yeah. There's a moment that we get Vader hitting his moonsault backflip off the top, which I'm always amazed by because he just does not look like he should be able to execute that move. And there's a moment where Cactus, I think he's desperately trying to fight back, and he jumps onto Vader's back, and Vader just walks down the ramp, the entrance ramp area, but the way he throws himself onto his own back, squashing Foley, that was definitely another one. Which is, I'm watching, think that can't not hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It just looked really sore, and I think his head bounces off it as well.
No doubt. There was some trivia about that, about him taking that bump. Foley was so fed up with creative in WCW that he told Vader to do that move on him. He thought that it would end up injuring him so badly that he'd be able to cash out an insurance policy.
Wow.
But it didn't hurt him. It didn't end up injuring him. That's in his. I think that's in his first book.
Oh wow!
Crazy. Eh?
I wonder how much longer he's in WCW here.
Yeah, I would say 1996. He's probably in WWF, isn't he?
Okay, and he did a wee bit in ECW before WWF.
Right.
But yeah, I've definitely read one of his books, and I know there was a lot of frustration with the way he was used, and I think a lot of it being what he put himself through to just be like. Did he make? Was it when he was in WCW that he lost the ear?
I think that's Japan, maybe.
Was it in Japan? Because I remember he was really angry with whatever promotion it was for not making a story of it. It's like, I have literally given my ear to the business, and you're not even gonna. I think it didn't get referenced, and he's like, oh, great.
Do something with it.
Yeah.
I'll try just having a wee look. Germany. How I lost my ear in Germany in 1994.
So 94, he moved to ECW in 94. So he went WCW, ended up World Tag Champion. And then, at a point in 94, he left WCW. So it might have been a European tour for WCW.
Yeah, it was WCW because it's those cables as opposed to the ring ropes.
Yeah.
Guess who it was he was wrestling against?
Vader.
Yep.
I think I knew that. I think I knew that before.
Yeah. That's cool. So after Cactus takes that bump, Vader then picks up a chair and home runs his head with it. Ridiculous. It's at this point that the medical staff try to start helping Cactus Jack, and Vader starts launching them about the place.
What? So I totally get why you enjoy this match so much, but I'm just going to ask about one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The cattle prod.
Yeah.
Not take you out of it a wee bit?
Yeah, a wee bit.
We could have done without it, I think.
Yeah, like I get it. Like they're trying to show that he's almost impossible to put away, so we need to use something. Yeah. But my thing is, this is a Texas, so there's so much illogical about this. This is a Texas death match. You can do whatever you want. So why does it take Harley Race to do it on the sly?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Vader's thrown everything but the kitchen sink, and we get that, and it just doesn't seem to be. He's not able to put him away. For about the last quarter of the match, Harley keeps pulling this thing out of his. Is he pulling out his trousers?
Mm-hmm.
It looks.
I think so.
Dodgy the way he's doing it.
Yeah.
So what has he actually got here?
It's a risky place to be keeping. So give yourself a wee shoulder bag for the evening. Just
Brilliant. We see him sparking it a few times. The problem is the camera's that close to him. We see him sparking it a few times, so we know how it works. He then puts it against his leg without sparking it.
Yeah.
It's just another instance of them making a mockery of a finish.
There was also a bit that I'm sure I think it's Tony Schiavone. I've heard talking about this before. How good WWF was at production, even in the early days, and getting, almost always having the camera pointing at the right thing at the right time, picking up whatever it needed to pick up.
Yep.
There's a point where Cactus DDTs Vader. Big move, DDTs him. There's a chair right there. I think he maybe DDTs him on the chair. But the camera is still on the ref as he's looking to figure out what's been going on with this thing that Race has been dicking about with. So they don't miss it. The camera's kind of picking it up, but it's almost like that's happening in the background.
Someone else that's going on.
And I'm looking, being like, that's a DDT on the ramp, maybe on the chair, and you're not getting it.
So I listened to Bischoff's 83 Weeks podcast talking about this this pay-per-view, and he's so frustrated at it because he just normally, if he's been the one that's been in charge, and Conrad starts saying, "Come on, man, what about this? What about this?" And he's like, "Oh no, but we did this and we did this." Whereas here, he's just, because he's not been involved in the creative, he's just tearing at everything.
Tearing at pieces. Okay.
He's so frustrated by the finishes. He's frustrated by stuff like this. Interesting to see if he was watching things like that and then saying, "Look, we'll try to improve the production and things like that."
Yeah. It was always marked as a big difference between the companies, was the production. But I suppose maybe when they NWO was in its sort of initial era and it seemed cool, but maybe that was quite a short period of time. But things looked a bit rougher, and I think that worked
Aye.
at the time. You wouldn't want that to be all the shiny production, but just not having the camera pointing at the right thing at the right time is no good. Oh no. What have you seen? What have you done?
I was going to bring up the card for Halloween Havoc 94. I was going to ask if you wanted to see it because we've not been doing that. But I was going to say, do you want me to go through it once we get to the end? But I saw a match on the card and I feel physically ill.
Oh no.
Anyway,
don't tell me. We'll move on from this with a fairly positive outlook, knowing that next isn't going to be. But we get to watch The Crow.
Yeah. Oh. I'm just completely spoiling this now. I need to look at it now that I've seen. Who is that? Oh. This makes for good podcast listening, eh?
I can't tell if your reactions are positive or.
Oh.
I can tell that. Yeah, now I know.
You mentioned someone that we were talking about Hogan. Anyway, we were talking about Hogan, and you said he'll be on the card. He'll be on the card. Yeah, you're pretty accurate.
We're immediately into jobs for the boys, are we?
We absolutely are. I need to tell you this: Honky Tonk Man.
Oh no!
Jim Duggan, Big Boss Man, the Nasty Boys.
Wow!
You've absolutely nailed that.
So the beefcake missing, is it?
I don't see him, unfortunately. Who's Dave Sullivan? Oh, the Equalizer. Fuck me. So the Crow, eh?
We haven't quite finished this match, have we?
Sorry.
We'll finish this.
Let's put a wee hat on Vader versus. It's a great match, Vader versus Cactus Jack.
As first time viewing it, the only thing I didn't really like was the stuff with the shock stick, the cattle prod. I could have done without that, but I enjoyed the match. At times, I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable with how brutal I thought it was, but both men walked away, so that's fine. Definitely heavy on the realism, and they managed to, I think, put Vader over as the monster that he needs to be here. But you also fully believe. I came away fully believing Cactus Jack is a main eventer here. And I don't know, it's difficult sometimes to separate because he obviously became a main eventer in WWF so many times over his career. I don't know that I thought he was a main eventer in WCW at any point in his run, really, but he is convincing as one here.
Yeah, 100%. It's amazing that it takes people, it takes him 5 or 6 years to get to win the WWF title from here. It's just amazing. And what we said about Austin as well.
Yeah.
It sounds like Austin created his own luck for himself more than anything.
Yeah.
And if Triple H hadn't been involved in the curtain call, then who knows what would have happened there.
Yeah.
So there you go. Some highs for that pay-per-view. Main event, Sting v Sid.
Yeah. It was a lot better than the last show. But that doesn't mean it was all good. But it was, I quite enjoyed bits of Regal Bulldog. And, when I still enjoyed seeing Austin. I was maybe done with him being in there with Dustin, but I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed just seeing Austin doing his thing. And there were bits in the Nasty Boys and Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio I didn't mind as well. So I thought it was definitely a much better show than the last one.
Yeah, agreed. Excellent. Well, how are you finding your Havoc so far? Up and down?
very up and down. I remember really enjoying. Was it like the first one or two,
Mhm.
and then it felt like it went totally off the rails for a couple.
Yep.
Now this one was okay, but I know from what you've said that I've got some things to get through on the next one.
I could give you some good news, but we've got Bobby Heenan on commentary.
On the I see. Wow, it's so weird just dipping in year by year because that is going to be such a drastic change from where we are here.
Yeah.
Hogan in and on top, and Heenan there. I assume that means Mean Gene's probably going to be there as well, and all Hogan's pals. Well, almost all.
Yeah, that comment that you've had about Austin and Dustin Rhodes, you've had enough of them to going back and forward. That is going to come back to bite you pretty severely. You never know. They say that Bret Hart could have got a match at a broomstick, so you never know what might happen.
Oh no! Oh no!
So in 2 weeks' time, we will talk The Crow and Havoc 94.
Cool.
Until then, keep it sweaty, sweat hogs, Adam. We shall see you in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Toodaloo. Oh, need to stop it.